The following program is a production of Truth for the World.
Thanks for joining us today on Ask the Expert. We're here with Nathan Franson. Nathan is a friend of mine and a gospel preacher down in Kissimmee, Florida. Nathan's going to be our expert today, and our topic of discussion is going to be Mormonism. Nathan graduated from the Memphis School of Preaching in 2009. But the reason that Nathan is our expert today specifically on Mormonism is because Nathan grew up as a Mormon. And so welcome to our show, Nathan.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So before we get started in what we're going to discuss, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing as a Mormon.
Okay. Well, as you said, I was raised in a Mormon home. My mother was converted to the Mormon faith by my father, and he had died when I was about 2 years old, and my mother raised us in a single Mormon home. I've got two brothers, and we attended services faithfully and every Sunday, and we participated in different activities and so forth. Every Monday night was family home evening night, which is a time for families to get together and do different things and study different lessons. And at the age of 8 years old, I was baptized, which is kind of a standard age in the Mormon religion to be baptized. And I went on to hold different priesthoods in the faith. And
now, would you say that you're? I guess you wouldn't maybe know. I was going to say, would you say that being a Mormon is similar to being a Christian as far as the upbringing? You know, you have church on Sundays, and you have maybe Wednesday night Bible class or something. Of course, you said Monday night family time or something like that.
Well, it's not so much as having Wednesday or midweek Bible classes as we have now. Like that. Family home evening was just a time where families would just kind of get together and do different things. It is a very religious group, and it's a very tight-knit group and very family-oriented, and we would do things with the church. And
okay. Now, I said that you were a Mormon, so obviously the implication is you're not a Mormon anymore at this point, right?
Correct. I left when I was I was 19 years old when I walked away from it and kind of studied my way out of it. It was just before the time I would have gone on a Mormon mission. Okay,
so you didn't actually go and knock doors like we see sometimes, like on a Saturday morning or something. I might be awakened by Mormon missionaries knocking on my door. So you didn't ever do that?
Not quite. I left just before that would have happened.
Okay. All right. So just so that we're clear on this too, the reason that I asked Nathan to be here is because, first of all, we don't want to attack people. I mean, we're not attacking a certain people. And I wanted you to be part of this because you know how to delicately handle things, I think, especially being raised in a Mormon home. So we want to make it clear that we're not trying to attack a certain people. But on the other hand, I'm sure you would agree that we need to look at the teachings of Mormonism, compare them to what the Bible says, and then if they're true, if what the Mormons believe is true, well, we should follow them. If what the Mormons believe, however, is not true, then we should not follow. Right.
Well, we certainly want to be objective when we approach this subject, and approach it with love. And it's very important, first and foremost, to realize that those who are in the Mormon faith, if we have discussions with them or anyone of any faith, those people are very sincere. there's a common ground between the two of us. Both of us certainly want to know the truth.
Okay.
We certainly love God, and it is our intention of hoping to get to heaven.
So then what is the common ground? What is it that I say to, if a Mormon comes and knocks on my door, what is it the one thing that I need to start? How do I start with?
Well, you can find that common ground. There's certainly both of you want to have the respect for the authority of God, okay, and find certain things that along the way that really do help the discussion. It's really going to go nowhere if we go in wanting to debate right up front.
Right.
And that's not going to help with anyone. But if we can discuss it, and there is a way to discuss it, certainly we have doctrinal differences between the two groups.
Right.
And those will come out eventually anyway with, through
Now, would you say that Mormons consider themselves Christians?
More so today than they did before. A long time ago, in fact, when I was in the Mormon faith, and that was a number of years ago, they never, being called a Christian was never at the top of the list, and it was for the reason that they did not want to be considered as part of the so-called mainstream Christian or religious movement. Nowadays, it's they've kind of become a part of that. They've integrated in with more groups, and they are more open to discussing it and to meeting with different people and so forth. And so you'll probably find them a lot more prone to being considered Christians today than back then.
So it's not as offensive as what maybe they're not offended if you call them a Christian.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I guess then, really, I guess what we need to talk about then is authority, because this is really what I think probably it's going to boil down to for us, is if a Mormon comes and knocks on my door, I'm going to have to figure out what the authority is, and really I'm going to have to ask. Probably this may even get us started in where we're going. I'm going to have to ask, what is the authority, and is it going to be approved by God? Does God approve of the Mormon faith?
Well, we can ask that of ourselves. The things we are doing, is it approved by God? Is it the authority of what God says? We want to speak where the Bible speaks. We want to stay silent where the Bible is silent. We do not want to add to the Bible nor take away from the Bible. And they have the same intentions. They do not want to deliberately do anything that obstructs their faith or their walk, with trying to get to the ultimate destination. I always like to open the discussion with this: either the Book of Mormon and everything pertaining to it, it's either completely acceptable to God or it is not.
Right.
And if it is, if it's not acceptable to God, then we certainly have the consequences of which Paul stated. Paul stated in Galatians chapter 1, if any man, and he put himself in that same category, if any man or any of the apostles or angels or anyone preaches anything different than what we have preached, let him be accursed.
Right, I remember that.
And so either the Mormon faith and the doctrine, it's either acceptable by God or it is not. Which means if either everything that we have in the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, it's either the complete Word of God, the only Word of God that was inspired, or it is not. And if it is not, then we have no choice but to accept that the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants and the Pearl of Great Price, which we'll discuss later,
at least it's a possibility.
It is a possibility that it is the truth. We have to accept that idea.
Okay.
However, if it is the only inspired writings from Genesis to Revelation, then anything else outside of that is unacceptable.
Right, okay. Well, why don't we start then, since you're the expert, why don't you start us on our study of it, and I'll just listen, and I may have some questions as you go along.
Okay. Well, the easiest way to begin is to try to understand their faith, and in order to understand their faith, we can begin with the history of the Mormon religion. Back in 1820, in the spring of 1820, a 14-year-old boy, and this is the history of the Mormon church, according to the Mormons, a 14-year-old boy, Joseph Smith, went into a grove of trees to pray to God. And it was near his home in Palmyra, New York. And he wanted to know which church he should join. Back at that time, as they taught, every church had fallen to apostasy. There were obviously religious organizations that were there. He was struggling with which one to join.
Okay.
And he wanted to pray about it. And so he went into this grove of trees to do that. Well, while he was in this forest area, a cloud of darkness just enshrouded everything. It had enveloped the entire surrounding area, and it was a cloud of just evil, and just an evil, vicious
darkness
that had covered him enough to bring him to his knees.
Physical darkness, a real darkness. Okay.
And he felt overwhelmed by it. He felt suffocated by it, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a light came down, and it was a brilliant light, and it was a beautiful light, and God the Father and His Son Jesus Christ had descended in front of him to tell him which church to join.
So this picture here is we're looking at God and Jesus, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And then this is him sitting on the ground. He's what, teenager?
He's 14 years old at this point.
So they're going to come to him. He had the darkness experience. Now the light's come.
The light has come. They have descended. He was praying which church to join. In fact, in Joseph's words, when the light rested upon me, I saw two personages whose brightness and glory defy all description, standing above me in the air. One of them spake unto me, calling me by name, and said, pointing to the other, "This is my beloved Son. Hear him." Well, from there they told Joseph to join none of these churches that he was questioning at that point. That he would be the one, in fact, that would restore the Church of Jesus Christ on earth. That's a huge responsibility.
So 14-year-old, right?
14 years old,
right,
being told by God that you would be the one that would that would restore the church on the face of the earth.
Okay, so he's in this grove, and God and Jesus come to him, and they tell him that you're going to be the one.
Right.
Okay, and so now he's 14 years old, and what happens? The vision goes away, and so now what's next for him?
Well, over the course of time, in fact, the next 10 years, he was visited by different heavenly messengers, one of being an angel, excuse me, and they would reveal different things to him.
Okay.
The angel Moroni was one of these very heavenly beings. And Joseph obviously had to get the writings that would resurrect the church, and that would bring everyone together.
So there's going to be some writings. They're not going to. God's law is still somewhere, right?
God's law had to be restored to the earth.
Okay.
Now they were restored on what they called the gold plates. Moroni had revealed to Joseph Smith where these golden plates were. The gold plates were in the Egyptian language, they were were kind of the archaic form of what the Book of Mormon would be. It was the Book of Mormon was translated from these plates, and this was the history of all of their ancestors throughout time.
Huh. So these are are these the gold plates? The actual gold plates?
This is an artist rendition of that. The actual golden plates, which Joseph Smith claimed to have translated the Book of Mormon, are no longer with us on earth.
So they somehow got taken back?
They've been taken out of our possession here, and taken back to heaven. Okay,
so now he's seen the vision, and for the next 10 years, right? The next 10 years he was translating?
He was translating the book. He was being visited by all of these different heavenly beings, being inspired by God.
Okay.
That is how he was translating all of these.
Okay.
And at the very end of this, or during this time, he had different witnesses, of which you can read about in the Book of Mormon. In fact, at the very beginning of the book were different testaments by these different witnesses, verifying everything that he was doing.
So there's some witnesses there. They're watching him translate or watching God give him the direction of what to write.
Well, he was showing them the plates at this time, so he could have people confirming and validating his work and what.
Okay. So they're there for confirmation.
Yes.
So now he's written it. Okay, now he's done. Everything, the book is back. The law of God is back. And so now what happens?
Okay, from here he releases the book, and this is the very beginning of the Mormon faith. This is the Mormon church. This is the restored church of Jesus Christ that is here on earth, and from here he was able to preach the gospel to those who were not a part of it.
Okay, so now at this time, I can get this straight, the story. Okay, so he's 14 and he's visited by, first the darkness comes and then the light, and he's visited by God and Jesus.
Yes.
They tell him for the next X amount of time, you're going to be the one responsible for bringing the church back to earth or back in existence, how it's supposed to be in the first place, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now he's done that. The 10 years, you say, has gone by. He's translated, by inspiration, translated the gold tablets or the gold book here. And now the church has started. Is there a following? Are people just happy to join his movement, or?
It's a very attractive religion. It was a fast-growing religion at that. People were jumping on board. They were joining up, and you have to think also in the span. This is a religion that has, with the Mormon faith that has been here on earth from 1830 until present day. It is one of the fastest-growing religious organizations around. They've got well over 5 million people that are that are in the religion. They've got missionaries worldwide. And to think it all started from this young boy,
right,
up until the present. And
so if I'm driving down the street and I want to visit a Mormon church, what are some names? Is it just called the Mormon Church? I mean, do you walk up to it and say, "Okay, this is the Mormon Church I want to go"?
Well, there are different names that you've probably seen or heard from different sources regarding this. One is Mormonism, which they're more receptive to now than before. Mormons were more of a derogatory term from way back than present day.
They didn't like it.
They didn't like it. They're more accepting of it now, and just with that name. Also, you'll hear a lot the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is probably the most widely accepted and the most widely recognized name for the Mormon Church today. You'll also hear Latter-day Saints, which is sort of a shortened version of that. The Church of Jesus Christ, which they've used on occasion, and this last one, which obviously is recognizable to us, is the Church of Christ. They do not use this anymore. They used it a long time ago when they first started out, but it is something that they have since kind of...
So we're clear now. We're not... You don't walk down there, drive down the street and see the sign Church of Christ and expect to be in a Mormon church.
No. They will not refer to that these days.
All right, so we have the names. We sort of have a little bit of the history. So then what happens next? What's going on? As far as what do you need us to learn? If a Mormon comes knocking on my door, what do you want me to do next?
Well, I certainly invite them in. We want to have that common ground. Both of us want to be able to go to heaven. We want to learn the truth. We want to, I would love for everybody to be able to know the truth and to study it and so forth. Regarding the Bible and so forth, they're probably going to be pulling out different sources that you may or may not have recognized in the past. They have got different books of doctrine that they'll probably use throughout this discussion.
So they won't only use the Bible, for instance.
No, the Bible is included with it, but you're going to be seeing a couple of different things that you probably haven't heard a whole lot about. There are a lot of different misconceptions about Mormons, and what is involved with it.
Okay.
The most common book, obviously, that most people are familiar with, at least the name, is the Book of Mormon.
Right. I've seen those.
The Book of Mormon was the book that was taken from the golden plates. It's more of a historical account rather than a doctrinal account.
It is inspired, though.
Of the faith. It is inspired. He was inspired when he translated this book.
According to Mormons, right?
According to the Mormon faith.
Okay.
Now, you're going to find different things through this book. First off, it covers the history from 600 BC to 421 AD.
Okay. So
it covers the life and the descendants of a man named Lehi from Jerusalem.
Okay. Now, Lehi, is he found in our regular Bible, our Bibles?
You'll not find Lehi in the pages, from Genesis to Revelation.
Okay. All
and
right.
So this is another individual that has been, who they introduce.
Okay.
The Book of Mormon contains more revelations and historical accounts than, we said, the doctrinal. And the book itself was translated in 1830.
Okay. So they're going to come to your door. But they will read the Bible too.
They're open to reading the Bible, and there is an article of faith which covers that, which we'll cover in the future here. There's another one of their sources is the Doctrine and Covenants. Now, the Doctrine and Covenants is where you're really going to find out what their doctrine is all about.
Okay.
This is, if you read on any of the Doctrine and Covenant, in any of the books of the Doctrine and Covenants, they're revelations that are given to Joseph Smith. It covers much later, obviously, than what the Book of Mormon does. From 1823 to 1918, it's still inspired. Joseph Smith wrote it. He did not have to translate it. He wrote all of this after he had...
Now this book that I'm looking at right here, I see it has a Book of Mormon, Doctrines and Covenants, and a Pearl of Great Price.
This is how you'll commonly see a lot of how they carry it. It's just kind of a compendium of their doctrine. Some of them even contain the Bible with it.
So it'd be one big book with either 3 or 4
yes.
books contained in it. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
The Doctrine and Covenants is also what covers the LDS plan of salvation, which is a little bit different than the plan of salvation that you and I have.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Could I just open the Bible and read are they the same?
Well, the plan of salvation with the LDS Church there are going to be some differences than what you and I have probably heard or what we have been taught in our past. This is a chart of the plan of salvation according to the LDS Church. They have what they call the premortal existence, or the pre-existence. Okay. And that is, they believe that we have always existed, that you and I and everyone that is on earth today or now either in heaven or hell have always existed at some point.
Okay, so we only have maybe about 3 minutes left in this segment, so I want to really talk about this, but maybe for the next 2 or 3 minutes, if you don't mind, talk to me about, so we all existed in the Spirit. You and I, before we sat here, before we were born, we were spirits.
We were spirits.
Living in a heaven.
We were in heaven with God.
Okay, so we were already in heaven, and then we came to earth, and I see over here the veil of forgetfulness.
Yes, the veil of forgetfulness kind of happened between the time of God, of our presence with God, to the time that we came down and were born into physical bodies.
So you and I can't remember
here.
Right. Well, so today we don't remember anything about our...
We don't remember anything that happened coming through, the veil. We don't remember heaven. We don't remember the presence of God and so forth.
Is this veil of forgetfulness something that you will find in one of their books? Obviously, it had to come from somewhere. I've read the Bible many times and I've never read anything about it. So where would I find this veil of forgetfulness? The
Doctrine and Covenants would contain the entire plan of salvation with... as you see on this chart.
Okay.
Now, the veil of forgetfulness, the way it was explained, or the way it was taught to us as children, has to do with a glove.
Okay.
the glove represents the body.
Okay.
As we have here on earth, okay? My hand, you take, it represents the spirit
Right.
with God. Okay, the spirit had to come down. The body, the physical body is lifeless, has nothing to it, cannot move,
Okay.
it has no intelligence, it has nothing. Until that
right.
spirit
I see where it's going.
enters
Right.
that body, and then we have our mortal existence. We have a spirit, we have a purpose, we're able to do right and wrong. And our whole objective is to
Okay.
try to
Well,
get
I mean, I can see that
to
would
heaven.
make sense. I can see that would make sense. For if I were to agree to this premortal existence, I could see where that would make sense. So the veil of forgetfulness causes us not to be able to remember. So then we come to earth. Now, I don't want to get too far along, mainly because we don't have a lot of time left. But here we are on earth, and what is the system? We all live. People choose to do good. People choose to do bad.
Our purpose here on earth is to do as good as we possibly can, to obey the gospel, to obey the commandments, because we do want to make it to back with God and to the highest degree of heaven that we possibly can.
Right.
They are taking a record of everything good and everything bad that we are doing here, and so it is our responsibility.
So there's a scale.
Follow that.
There's like the measurement scale. You've got good on one side, you've got bad on the other.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
That's interesting. Well, we're gonna stop right here for now, and we really appreciate you being here, being our expert. We're glad. I've learned a lot already in just this, but I have tons more questions. So we're certainly glad for your presence, and we hope that you guys will join us next time as we study more about Mormonism.
If you would like to learn more about God's Word with a free Bible correspondence course, then write us at Truth for the World, P.O. Box 5048, Duluth, Georgia, 30096, the United States of America, or visit us online at TFTWTV.org. The preceding program was a production of Truth for the World, a work of the Duluth Church of Christ.